Welcome back to EduWell, where we dive into real conversations that matter for educators. If you've heard our episode on teaching in your 20s, you know we've been exploring what teaching looks like at different stages in life. Today, we're focusing on teaching in your 30s.
That's right. Your 30s can be such an interesting phase for teachers. You're still early in your career, but by now you've got some experience under your belt. You probably navigated a couple of curriculum changes, seen a few different classes or many, and really started to understand the rhythms of the cycle of the school year, the highs and the lows.
Exactly, but being in your 30s also brings in new challenges. Maybe you're thinking about honing your style, or maybe you're finding new ways to be efficient in your work. Maybe you're starting a family or thinking about it, and suddenly you're balancing young children at home and young students at school. It's like you're being pulled in so many directions, and it can be tough to find that balance.
We'll talk about that balance today and what it means to manage your professional growth while juggling personal responsibilities. We'll also talk about how having more experience in the classroom helps you deal with those tough times.
So, whether you're currently in your 30s or reflecting back on this stage, today's conversation is for you. So, let's dive into the well. How do you navigate teaching in your 30s with experience, ambition, and all of those outside responsibilities? Welcome to the EduWell podcast, a show created for, by, and with teachers. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chelsea. With over 30 years of combined teaching experience, our goal is to share insights and connect with fellow educators on how to thrive both personally and professionally.
Join us as we dive deep into the well of information, filled with meaningful discussions, practical tips, and ideas that go way beyond the classroom walls. Let's be well
and do well together.
All right, so Chelsea, I'm of the belief that depending on what stage, what season of your life you're in, or what age you're in, your lived experience as a teacher can be completely different. So I think you are very uniquely situated when you're in your 30s. You're fortunate because you have more experience than you did in your 20s. You've got some time under your belt, and yet you're still relatively new in your career. You've had the advantage, or disadvantage in some cases, of seeing several government cycles or possibly shifts in curriculum. You may have gained a deeper understanding of the profession, and you may have practiced how to balance your teaching life, all the paperwork, and all of the evolving responsibilities. You've had several years where you've seen the teaching cycle, and you can probably predict a little bit more as to what's coming up and try to put some systems in place to avoid the stress that comes with these different times. So, one of the advantages is that you've lived it. You know you can do it. You've survived it, and maybe you've started to thrive in it. And that can be a really affirming thing for a teacher who's new to the profession. So, big picture, the way I see it is you've built a level of experience, and just about when you've built that level of experience, other things in your life might start to crop up, and it may be more challenging to bring the teaching style that you want to bring to life because of the time that you're in your life.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think that being in your 30s is a time where you're really thinking about getting established. You've been through those 20s, you were in that anticipation phase, you are really actually diving into all parts of your life now, and there is a pressure to that. I personally feel like my 30s were a blur. It's like, where did they go? Everything was moving so quickly, career and lifestyle. When we talk about the annual cycle of a teacher's life, I see this generation series as a broader life cycle. In my 20s, I was full of excitement and that anticipation. I was ready to take on the world. But in my 30s, honestly, I found myself in survival mode. I feel like I was juggling disillusionment in several areas of my life. And now in my 40s, I've learned how to slow down, take a step back, and really try to recharge and rejuvenate when I need it. So I'm hoping that when I reach my 50s, I'll be sailing smoothly and I'll be reflecting on the journey as I look at the ripples in the well.
My 30s, Chelsea, adding on to that, gave me the lessons in what I needed to shift personally. Like it was a blur for me
Yeah.
because I was torn in so many directions. And I felt as though when I was doing really well at school, I wasn't doing great at home. And when I was dedicating time at home, I wasn't doing great at work. It was this constant trade off. But because I often chose work, because of the survival mode and the consequences of not choosing work and feeling disorganized and the stress that it caused and the possible reputational damage, perceived reputational damage in that time, it forced me when I was at the end of my 30s and into my 40s to say, how did that feel? That's enough of that. I need to make shifts and changes. That said, at the same time, when the kids are older, as they grow up, it is less labor intensive, the care, right? If you have young children at home and you're in your 30s and you're a teacher, like we said earlier, you are with young people all day and then you are going to young people at home and your needs just go down, down, down that priority list. That lived experience brought me to a very unhealthy place. So I almost had to have that experience to learn to prioritize self, to learn to create boundaries and to define what being well meant for me, and not just everyone else telling me what to do in my world, me driving the ship a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like people need to go through those times in order to actually figure out how to reflect and to figure out how to proceed. And this time is a time where maybe you do have children, or maybe you are focusing on how you can advance in your career, or maybe you're trying to establish things in other ways, establish a home, establish a place to live, establish your life so that you can actually begin deciding exactly what your future goals are going to be in all of those areas of your life. And it kind of hits you all at once in your 30s. And then managing it can just be so very overwhelming. So you are torn in multiple directions, no matter where you are in your life. The 30s, I think they're a time in many people's lives where you do really have to start looking back and looking forward.
That's a great point, Chelsea. And as you were just talking about that, I was looking back. And if I may, when I look back, I don't regret the things that I did in my career, as in I took a ton of courses to make sure that I was growing my career and advancing my placement in a monetary way on the grid. Those are important things that I did. I was building connections in my workplace. I was, learning and trying new things. I don't regret any of that. And I do regret how I didn't spend enough time with my family and I didn't take care of myself in those times. So I wonder if I could take some of that energy that I put into my career and shift it over to family. And if I were talking to myself in my 30s right now, I would say, chill out. You have many, many years to accomplish all of the things that you want to do, but you only have your kids at this age for so long. And you're the only, mom that they have. So and I would say to myself, I only have this one body, I only have this one mind, I only have this one spirit. I need to be the person responsible for taking care fully. And I would have taken some of that energy away from career and put it towards those two things. And I know darn well I wouldn't have damaged my career. Non-negotiables, though, career-wise, is making sure that you are taking those courses so that you are getting paid correctly to the maximum amount. If you live somewhere where more courses create a higher income, those are really important pieces. Or if you want to change in your career, setting up for success and taking the courses that make you qualified for those different positions. Those to me are important to kind of get those ducks in a row for the now, but also looking forward career wise for later. And see, just in this discussion, Chelsea, we're back and forth between self and family career, self, family, career. The whole conversation's just whirlwinding around. It's a swishy kind of well right now. It looks like a whirlpool.
Yes, the well is a whirlpool in your 30s. It's one of those situations where you know that you're going to thank yourself later, but at the time you can't even think about that. You're just like, okay, I must move forward. And somehow you manage to muster up the energy. And that's why, because you keep going and going, you don't have time to think about how much you're going to thank yourself later, but it really does pay off. So I think what we're saying is that pressure that you feel in your 30s can be that positive pressure. It can actually help you if managed properly, if you're not overdoing it, which oftentimes I think we are in our 30s. And I know that those pressures and maybe even some of that overwhelm really inspired me to want to learn more about how I can sort of look at my life, look at what I have, and learn how to water my own grass, make my grass greener with what I have instead of always trying to get more, to do more. And I think if you can learn that in your 30s, you have an advantage. I was talking recently to another teacher who had just had her third baby, and she's on mat leave right now.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I'm at home and I want to enjoy my time, but I always feel like I have to be doing something. And we just kind of had a conversation about how it's okay to really, really try to enjoy that time that she has off, that time with her baby. And I know that throughout all my 30s, the staff at our school, the amazing staff that had kids who were older, kids who were in high school, kids who were going off to post-secondary school, they would all say to me, enjoy it while you've got it, pay attention to it, because 1 minute they're in diapers and then the next minute they're going off to university. I truly listened to them. I valued their advice so much. And it's so true. Time flies, as we all know. And I do feel like I paid attention to those times more and I let myself relax a little bit more because of the advice that I received from those seasoned colleagues.
Some very wise words, Chelsea. Key is that you listen to the wise words of those around you. You leaned on your support system and you learned from them. And the second big point, about watering the grass, comparison, as we say, well, as someone else said, is the thief of joy. And I think that's another really big piece, is knowing what your values are, knowing what your goals are and what you want for your life, and move forward with that instead of getting into that comparison game. And, you can listen back to the episodes Be Well and Do Well. And those episodes really address that and honing in on, what you want and how to make sure you're moving in that direction. So, Chelsea, that's excellent advice. I really love that you're also passing on feedback to someone who's in a different stage and sharing what you've learned. When people are generous and they sit down and they bother to share information with you, sometimes people take that as lecturing or as you know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
really it's a moment of generosity where you have learned through lived experience and possibly mistakes. In my case, a lot of mistakes. And you're imparting that in the hopes that someone else has a bit of a smoother ride, right? And so I've always appreciated those moments where people have been generous and shared with me those pieces of advice, because gosh darn it, a lot of it is cliche, but it is so true.
It really is. Yeah. We are at the stage, you and I, right now, where we can look back a little bit on our 30s. But what would you actually say to yourself if you met Alex in her 30s right now?
Oh my gosh, are we doing this? Okay, I would say this. I would say you are not what you own. I would say you are good enough and you are where you are, and you're not someone who's in their 40s or 50s. All of that learning will happen, but it comes with time and experience. I would say your family is number one and non negotiable, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says. You can say no. You can say not right now. You can say, I have other commitments, and those other commitments can and should be family. Yeah, I'm saying can and should be. And they can also be your commitment to self and some quiet space. It doesn't have to be some official plan where you're on someone else's time and someone else's dime. Oh, a little bit of rhyme. I don't know what that was. Those are three things
That's
that
good.
I would say to self. Oh, I would also say, oh my gosh, start working out earlier, because it's sure hard when you're like 36 and just starting out. Just saying.
Good advice. Good
Thank you.
advice. I
Now,
think Alex
Chelsea,
would love that.
I think so too. What advice would you be giving to Chelsea in her 30s?
Okay, if I saw Chelsea in her 30s right now, I would say, Chelsea, you need to ask for help. Ask for help with your children. Ask for help with what you're doing at work. Don't try to take it all on yourself. It's okay to ask for help. Also, Chelsea, no one is really truly paying that much attention to what you're doing. So chill out a bit, okay? There are other people to share the workload at home and at school. And set some boundaries when it comes to sleep and putting your kids to bed
Oh, that's a good
and
one.
talking to people in your family about what you really need for yourself. Please do that now, Chelsea. Don't wait till you're 40 like you did.
Okay, I've got one more for me. I got to throw one more into my past self.
Yeah,
Okay. You've got everything that you've ever wanted. You just don't realize it at this moment. And
love
I
that.
would say, Alex, be so grateful for the beautiful, beautiful everything that you have. And you're surrounded by like nothing but goodness. I would say that too to myself. And took me way too long to figure out that I always had it all. So yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's hard to realize things when you're in the whirlpool well.
The whirlpool well, and in a society where it's always more and more, and there is comparison where, what everyone else is doing. And it's about having that confidence to say, this is what I'm doing.
That comparison, it really makes you feel like you're not doing enough. It makes you feel like you're not living up to your potential in all areas of life. It can make you feel that way. You're looking at these awesome teachers and you're like, how come I'm not doing that? And you're just too tired to do that. And you don't have the experience and you're working on it and you're working on it. And you're looking around you at all of these parents and you're seeing all of this stuff on social media. And it's just like, just do you. Do what you got to do. And don't worry about other people. There's another thing. Don't worry about what other people think. Very big deal.
What other people are doing is none of your business, and focus on you. And just like in life, social media is filled with people's curated best moments. Uh, Pinterest for teachers is curated with, the best bulletin board, the best desk, the best
Yeah,
lessons. We all know the lived experience in the classroom is a heck of a lot bumpier than anything we see in a snapshot of a picture.
absolutely. All right. So when I'm thinking back to my 20s, again, I think that was a time we talked about this in our 20s episode where you're kind of going into things without experience. What are some things that you feel you start thinking about more in your 30s that you should know in regards to teaching? Alex, any thoughts on that?
Well, I've got lots of thoughts on that. Things that I wish I had put some more time and effort and interest into in my 20s. So if you're listening and you're in your 20s, this isn't just for people in their 30s. Go for this, read into this. But when you're in your 30s, some things that you for surely should have looked into by now are as followed. And let's be real. We know that our listeners come from a wide variety of different teaching backgrounds and have access to different resources. So we're hoping you have all of these. And if you do, fantastic. And if you don't, well, maybe you move towards an opportunity that does provide something like this for you. So one of the first things is knowing what benefits are available to you. So knowing if you pay into a benefits program, what services you can access, like chiropractic, like massage, like counseling services. How much do you get for dental? How much do you get for vision? Knowing that, understanding that, keeping your receipts, submitting them correctly, knowing what is available to you for when your well needs to be topped up a little bit. So knowing what is available to you. You should always be aware of health and safety resources that exist for you as an employee, because not only may you need to use them at some point or advocate at some point, now that you're in your 30s, someone who is younger than you may be asking you about it, how to fill out a form if something has gone wrong. What are the next steps if you feel unsafe at work? Those are things that now that you're in your 30s, you should definitely already know, but you may be supporting someone younger than you.
I think it is so important to talk about this because life happens. And if it happens when you are in the middle of that whirlpool, that's really hard. But knowing is sort of a way of preparing, and this can be really helpful. So just knowing, hey, what are my next steps should this occur? And I do suggest that you ask people. That's what I do because having conversations about this with people that you're working with is just really that much more helpful. And I mean, I do it all the time with you, of course, because, Alex knows her stuff. So great person to go to.
So does Chelsea. And, if you have an association rep, a union rep at the school, they can be excellent resources. But also when there's an invite online to some sort of a learning session about what you have access to, say yes to that once in a while. You might be surprised. Knowing your collective agreement, knowing what you have available for sick leave, medical appointment days. Some government employees have family care and nurturing days for taking their children to appointments or their elderly parents to appointments. We all have something different, but chances are you have something that can help you support when you're in the whirlpool well.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I did not know what types of days that I even had. I was just so happy to have a job that I was like, yeah, I'm going to work. What comes with that? I didn't know. So knowing and understanding that information is absolutely key.
And all of these different things have been put in place because humans have complex lives and things happen. When they happen, as a result, there's things available to you to help support you through that time. When you are sick, you need to be able to take care of self and not go to work and get 10 times sicker and get everyone else sick, right? So knowing
Mhm.
what is there for you in your support system is super important. What about maternity and paternity? Knowing what is available to you from work, knowing what is available to you from the government, fully understanding that, talking to your people, asking those questions, making sure that you can plan in a way where you're maximizing your ability to be off and making sure that you're getting all the money that is allocated to you. So when it comes to maternity and paternity leave, making sure that you know what is available to you so that you're educated, so that you're in a position of, I'm going to use the word power when it comes to being off and making sure that it's the best possible experience for you. I think understanding that is really important. I've kind of let life, dictate to me what's happening next instead of researching first, asking first. So I've changed that and I've found it to be really positive.
It's so important knowing what you're getting paid, when you're getting paid.
Ask those questions. You have a right to ask questions that have such a major impact on your life. Speaking of impact on your life, if you're lucky enough to have a pension plan, make sure that you are looking into that, reading over the documents, knowing in the future what is going to be available to you. Go to workshops about your pension, learn about it so that you can plan with all of the puzzle pieces being right in front of you. I am shocked by how many people have never opened up their pension information. And you'll be pleasantly surprised, depending on where you live, that you've been putting money into something, hopefully for a while now, and making sure that you understand what that means for your future.
What can I do right now to be well and to do well, which is going to help me be well and do well in the coming years? You can only prepare for that so much. We don't know the future, but knowing this type of information can be very helpful.
You can. You're making better decisions when you have all of the information for yourself.
Yes. Okay, so before we go today, I'm just going to stress this one more time, and it's probably the fourth or fifth time that we've done this. Learning is key. In my 30s, I definitely experienced burnout, as many teachers do. A very high percentage of teachers are experiencing burnout at one time or another. You sometimes don't know you're in it until you're in it. You don't realize that you're burned out. Disengagement, defeat, exhaustion. I've felt all of those things. And that's why I really had to say to myself, it's time to learn how to remedy this going forward. And that's when I started diving into all of the information on, again, how can I make my grass greener? How can I improve whatever situation was going on in my life, personally or professionally? Really narrowing it down to what do I need to do and what do I not need to do?
Yeah, I think if there is a decade in one's life where burnout is a high possibility, it is in the 30s because of all the different directions that you're being torn in. And I also think that because you're young and you have a fair bit of energy, you might think, oh, I'm too young to be burned out. I completely disagree. I think that 30s are the time where everything is just coming to a head. And as a result, I think it's prime time for burnout. But like you said, that's also kind of the feeling that you almost need sometimes to be able to move towards a better place. But hopefully within this podcast, there's little bits of information that you can glean to lessen the whirlpool of what is your 30s, career and family.
Yeah. And you know what? Your 30s, they are a fun and exciting time. They're a time to celebrate those wins, those gains that you're making, and the experience that you have. You can thank yourself for doing what you've done throughout those years. So it's also a super wonderful time of learning and new beginnings and growth. That's really something to reflect on as well.
Well, all that work that you've put in over the years is paying off, is coming to fruition. And it is a lot of new career, possibly new house, possibly new family, just a whole bunch of really new and exciting things. And ultimately, with all of that comes new stresses that you have to navigate. And because those stresses are new to you and navigating those stresses are possibly new to you, it takes time to kind of hone in and figure out how you're going to navigate it as smoothly as possible. Boy, there's a lot of ship reference, well reference, whirlpool reference in this episode, Chelsea.
It's true, but that's what life is all about, figuring out the journey you're on, where you're at, and where you're going to go, right? So there you have it. Teaching in your 30s is a delicate balance of growing in your career while handling those new responsibilities personally and professionally.
So get out your compasses and build your strong crew all around you and make sure that you're following the North Star, which is self and your beautiful family and the people around you who you love, who are just a part of your crew. That should be number one.
Wait, didn't you have a quote you were going to say? Not
I
that you
did.
didn't already just create your own quote, which you
I
coined.
did. So it goes like this. In my 20s, I was thrashing around in the water, trying to keep my head above it. In my 30s, I realized it was only 3 feet deep, and I stood up. By Leslie Bradshaw. Isn't that good?
That is perfect.
Because
That is perfect.
Yeah, we've stood up.
Yes. You
Okay.
stand up, you take a look around.
And when you stand up, it's an action of taking control over your life and saying, nah, I got my feet under me. I'm looking around and I've got this. And, teachers in your 30s, you definitely got this. If you don't know that, you do. You really do got this. Trust me. If I could figure it out and stand up eventually, you are well on your way.
Yes. Okay, let's get into the takeaways. Number 1, lean into your experience. You have seen enough to understand the ebb and flow of teaching, so use that insight to tackle challenges with confidence and navigate tough times with perspective.
2, set boundaries for balance. It's okay to say no and set limits to protect your time and energy. Building boundaries at work and home allows you to show up more fully where it matters the most.
Takeaway number 3 is celebrate small wins. Whether it's a breakthrough with a student or finding harmony between your personal and professional life, recognize the progress that you're making on this journey.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you found some helpful insights to take back into your teaching journey. Remember, whether you're celebrating small wins or navigating challenges, you're making an impact every day. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode and any topics you'd like us to dive into next. Feel free to send us a text, leave us a voicemail on our website, or connect with us on Instagram. Until then, be well
and do well.